I'm a little embarrassed to admit that it took me nearly 24 hours to realize it, but during their Q1 2024 earnings call, Elon Musk and Tesla just told the rest of the automotive industry that they are dead men walking. Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I know that the title and the cold open might sound like hyperbole, but I actually believe it's not, and it has to do with this shirt, which is awesome. You can now be a full self-driving supervisor as opposed to a full self-driving beta tester. You can check that out on the merch store if you're interested. But during their earnings call, Elon Musk and other execs at Tesla basically laid out the plan to make other automotive makers irrelevant. So let's take a look at how this is going to happen, starting with the Q1 quarterly update deck, specifically this one on core technology, artificial intelligence, software and hardware, and vehicle and other software. So I specifically want to look at these two graphs. The bottom one is Tesla's AI training compute capacity in H100 equivalent GPUs. H100 is the NVIDIA kind of state of the art, at least up until Blackwood comes out. Anyway, it's just a way of measuring everything by a standard metric, but you can see 2022, 2022, 2023, it crept up and it crept up and it crept up. And then around September of 2023, they really started to put in some effort. And they went from around 5,000 H100s to around 15,000. Then they plateaued for a couple of months. And then during Q1 of 2024, they went from about 15,000 to about 35,000 H100s. And by the end of the year, they're planning to be at 85,000 H100s. So this is going to make all of this stuff look like a rounding error, right? The ramp from right now to the end of the year is just going to be huge in terms of compute power. So number one, Tesla has invested a ridiculous amount of money into compute power so that they are no longer compute constrained and will soon have an actual surplus of compute. And then the second graph up here on the top is cumulative miles driven with FSD beta billions as of April 21st, 2024. So you can see here that nothing until 2021, and then, a few people got it. And so they were little bit, and they eventually got up to somewhere around March of 2023, which is just about a year ago. They got up to about 100 million miles of full self-driving, driving data that they had. That's 1 year ago. Then look what happened. It went very, very rapidly up until we got to about March of 2024, when they actually were at about 850 million miles, if I remember, 880 million, somewhere in that area. And then of course they released full self-driving 12 to everybody, and it kept going up and kept going up. And then this little inflection point right at the end here is when they went from having it be $200 a month, or you had to purchase it, to being a free 1 month trial. And you can see that the hockey stick just went straight up. So they basically went from just about $1 billion to about 1.22 billion. So they gained about 200 million miles of full self-driving data in about a month right now because of making full self-driving supervised free. And just for comparison, how long did it take them to reach their first 200 million miles? That would be somewhere around the March timeframe of 2023. So it took them somewhere around 2 years to get their first 200 million miles of full self-driving data, and it took them about a month to get their last 200 million miles of full self-driving data. That is a massive uptick in data collection, and it is absolutely huge. And if you don't know, Tesla has reduced the price of full self-driving to $8,000 to purchase it and $99 a month as opposed to $199 a month to subscribe to it. So they're trying to make this available to as many people as possible at the exact same time that you can see that their training compute power has just skyrocketed, and Elon Musk himself has said they're no longer compute constrained. Next piece of evidence, also from the quarterly update deck, right here what I have highlighted in blue, we have updated our future vehicle lineup to accelerate the launch of new models ahead of our previously communicated start of production in the second half of 2025. These new vehicles, including more affordable models, which were going to be several models here, will utilize aspects of the next generation platform as well as aspects of our current platforms, and will be able to be produced on the same manufacturing lines as our current vehicle lineup. This update may result in achieving less cost reduction than previously expected, but enables us to prudently grow our vehicle volumes in a more capex efficient manner during uncertain times. This would help us fully utilize our current expected maximum capacity of close to 3 million vehicles, enabling more than 50% growth over 2023 production before investing in new manufacturing lines. Our purpose-built robotaxi product will continue to pursue a revolutionary unboxed manufacturing strategy. So in my Q1 earnings review, which you can find up here, I go into a lot of detail about the Cybercab, which is what the robotaxi is going to be called, and exactly why it's such a big deal. They're going to be manufacturing the $25,000 car, the less expensive future version of the car, on current lines and starting at the end of 2024 or early 2025 rather than a year later. So again, watch that for more details about that. But the important part here is that they are pushing the delivery date of these vehicles forward by about a year, and they're going to attempt to ramp to about 3 million vehicles. So let's say the Model 3 and Model Y account for 1.5, 1.8 million of that. That means that they'll have room to grow for somewhere around 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 million of these new vehicles being produced without having to extend any of their factories or build new factories, which means they can do this much more rapidly and in a capex efficient manner. And another bit of evidence, during the earnings call, Elon Musk specifically said if another vendor decided today to sign up for Tesla's full self-driving and try to implement it, it would take them approximately 3 years to implement it in their vehicles. It's kind of an open secret that Ford is in negotiations with Tesla, likely, and a major automotive manufacturer is in serious discussions with Tesla right now about their full self-driving autonomous software. But this means even if they ink the deal tomorrow, it would be 2027 before it would be likely that they could implement this in their vehicles. And then if we further listen to what Ashok and Elon said in the earnings call as well, they said version 12.4 and 12.5 of the software are going to be major, completely retrained with significantly new architecture, rewrites of the software, and they are going to be significant step changes. In fact, Elon said they should be called versions 13 and 14 rather than 12.4 and 12.5. So that's what a significant advancement we're going to be talking about with these new versions of the software. And Elon said specifically that he thought that if they could show data that full self-driving was twice as safe as a human driver, the average human driver, that regulators would approve the use of robo-taxis in areas like San Francisco, potentially LA, and other places that are friendly to this very rapidly because they've already approved this for Cruise, Waymo, and other autonomous vehicle makers. So let's combine all the pieces together. We've got massive amounts of full self-driving data. We've got massive amounts of new compute coming online. We've got them pushing the $25,000 car or low-cost car forward by a full year so that it's going to be available a year from now to purchase. That's pretty crazy to think about. And Elon Musk specifically said it would take other auto manufacturers 3 years to integrate this into their systems and produce a vehicle that could use this autonomous software themselves, even if they licensed it tomorrow. So what does this mean? This means that a year from now, in 2025, just call it early 2025, April of 2025, doesn't matter, they're going to have a $25,000 car. It might be $28,000, whatever, but it's going to be substantially cheaper. There will be a tax credit available for it, assuming politics don't get in the way of that. So effective cost of this, at least in the United States, might be on the order more like $20,000 or $21,000 as opposed to $27,000 or $28,000. That's a very affordable car. This is the kind of car that the masses can afford, right? This is cheaper with the tax credit than a Toyota Corolla is, even like the entry model version of it, and much less than a hybrid. And as we all know, at least with major goods, if you reduce the price of an object like a car by a relatively small amount, by a few $1,000s, you get a non-linear increase in the number of buyers who are able to afford it and therefore will afford it. And so what we're looking at here is not a small decrease in price, but going from somewhere around $40,000, $35,000 or $40,000 for a lower end Model 3 or Model Y, down to the range of the low $20,000, at least with tax credits. That is going to enable most of the new car buying market to be able to afford this car. And they're going to look at it very seriously because it's going to have all of this autonomous software on it. And therefore it's going to be much safer. And also, as per the earnings report, we heard it last night, Elon specifically talked about using your vehicle to make money as part of the Tesla robo-taxi fleet, and also potentially even to do inference, to use the computer boards that are on your car when your car is just sitting idle, to do inference for large neural networks for different tasks and everything, and therefore earn you a potential amount of money for doing that as well. So these vehicles not only could cost a relatively small amount of money, but could make you money instead of losing money. I mean, pretty much every car you've ever purchased ever lost money over time, right? You buy the car new at $50,000 or whatever, and you sell it 5 years later for $20,000. And so you've lost $30,000 plus whatever maintenance you put into it, plus the gas and everything else. So cars are a loss. That's what they are currently. But what if your vehicle, what if you purchase this thing and it can basically offset it? Maybe it doesn't make you a ton of money, but it basically offsets the cost of the loan plus charging up the car, etc. That changes the entire equation of a vehicle. Plus the fact the car is provably safer than everybody else driving on the road, which means that you will feel very safe in the vehicle as well. And then the same time, all the legacy auto manufacturers are backing off of doing electric vehicles and moving to hybrids, which won't come down in price that much. By the way, hybrids are a stupid idea. Definitely check out my video up here for more on that. But anyway, regardless of that, these vehicles will be cheaper than anything else you can buy on the market of any kind of comparable quality. And certainly in a place like the United States or Canada or so forth, where we don't buy ultra mini cars that are like the $5,000 cars, these are going to be amongst the cheapest vehicles that you can purchase. And then the cost of charging them up costs a lot less than fueling up a gas tank. And then you can potentially make money on it as well by Ubering it out or using it as an inference engine. These are all game changers to the way people are going to think about vehicles. And then you add on top of that anybody else who wants to get in there and start doing what Tesla is doing, it's going to take them, as per Elon, it's going to take them at least 3 years to get there. That means that between 2025 and 2027 or 2028, it's entirely Tesla's world, and nobody else can even play in this space. Everybody else is going to look like a horse and carriage compared to what Tesla has to offer. So what happens in this time period? Well, Tesla scoops up as many sales as the cars that they can produce, and at the same time, there's going to be a giant depression in the number of cars that people need, because if you have a 2-car family and you suddenly have a car that has the capability of driving itself, you might not need 2 cars anymore, because that car could take your kid to school in the morning, then it can come back and pick you up, take you to work, go get your spouse can go grocery shopping or go to the gym or go to work themselves. Then it comes back home or goes back to the parking lot. It waits, picks up the kid from school, picks you up. It can do all of these tasks, and it doesn't have to sit in a parking lot. It can be picking you up all day long. And if you don't need it for a period of time, you can loan it out to the Robo taxi fleet, so it can actually make you money while that's happening as well. So simultaneously with Tesla scooping up all the sales during that 3-year period, there's going to be a massive depression in the number of vehicles that people are going to need, because they can move down the number of vehicles that their family needs, because you don't have a single car sitting in a parking lot all day. You have one car that can drive around and pick up people and do what it needs to. And then of course, let's not forget the Cybercab in that mix as well. Tesla will be producing that in smaller numbers, I assume, because it's going to be in the unboxed line. But that also doesn't matter, because what they'll do is they'll put the Cybercab into large markets like New York City or LA or San Francisco or whatnot, where just a few thousand of these vehicles can pretty much cover the needs of the entire city. So then as a city dweller, you don't even have to think about having a car anymore. And of course, if projections come true, the Cybercab will be significantly cheaper than Uber, and even in owning your own car, especially in a large city where it's inconvenient to park it and it might be difficult to charge it and or fuel it up and all of that kind of stuff. So in a larger market like a city, a Cybercab will make perfect sense. In smaller markets like where I live, like Athens, I can rent out my Tesla when I'm not using it for an Uber type service, Tesla Uber. And as opposed to needing 2 cars, we might only need 1 car most of the time, because we can just have the single car drive around and pick us up. And of course, if we're ever in a pinch, we can call up somebody else's Tesla in that fleet and use it to drive wherever we need to. So we may be able to reduce from 2 cars in our family down to 1, and that would be a significant savings. And of course, all the while this is happening, Tesla's got more and more compute power coming online, and they've got more and more full self-driving miles happening, right? Because they're all being collected, which means they've got a flywheel where they can keep making the full self-driving better and better and better, which means that what happens is that the gap that they currently have between them and the next competitor, which is really big already, is just going to keep getting bigger. So there will be nobody who can actually jump that gap to catch up with Tesla, which means the only option is to license from them, which means that even if somebody else like Ford or GM or whoever comes through and licenses, by the way, Rivian or Lucid, you guys should do it immediately, because you're small, that you should immediately license with Tesla. I don't know what you're thinking, but whoever it is, Tesla will make a cut of that as well. So even if somebody else survives, which is unlikely because they're going to have multiple years where they're not going to be able to produce something that competes with a Tesla, even if they do survive, they're still going to be giving Tesla a cut of their profits. So what do we have? We have amazing amounts of data and full self-driving capability. We're going to have simultaneously a reduced need for vehicles. Once robo-taxis are allowed on the roads, autonomous vehicles are allowed. There's going to be a phase change in the ability of these vehicles. In other words, the car won't drive to a place and sit in a parking lot all day. It'll be an active participant in your life, going and picking up the kids, going and picking up you, etc., etc. And when you're not using it, you can Uber it out or use it as an inference engine to make yourself some extra money. And then no one else can catch up because of this gigantic gap. And if they want to license from Tesla, it's going to take them about 3 years to license it. And even if they do license it, Tesla still profits from that. And then the last piece is safety. These cars could be 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x safer than a human driver. So people are not going to want to put themselves or their families in any other vehicle, because compared comparatively speaking, they'll be like a death trap. And of course, finally, if you own one of these vehicles, you could actually make some money off of it instead of just losing money on your car. So like I said, even though the title and the cold open sounded like hyperbole, I don't believe that that's true. I really believe that this is Tesla's world. They've told us exactly how they're going to do it and how they've accelerated things and how every other auto manufacturer is a dead man walking. All right, so that's what I've got. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. If you have other areas that Tesla has an advantage in, or if you disagree with me, argue with me. Yeah, you can definitely present evidence to the contrary if you believe that. In the meantime, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.